Russian officials have welcomed Iranian President Hassan Rouhani as he arrives in Moscow for a two-day visit. Now, Rouhani is scheduled to visit with his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, and Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev during his stay in Moscow. Before flying to Russia, Rouhani called for more cooperation between Tehran and Moscow in the energy sector, and that Tehran welcomes Russia's investment in the Islamic Republic. He said that Tehran and Moscow hold a similar stance on the fight against terrorism. During his visit, the two sides are to sign several economic and trade agreements and discuss regional and global developments. Let's cross over to Moscow, joined by Mark Sloboda, international relations and security analyst. Thanks so much for being with us, Mr. Sloboda. Well, let's talk about the significance of Iranian President Rouhani's visit to Moscow.
Of course, this isn't the first time President Putin and President Rouhani have met. By all accounts, they have established warm personal relations as well as a good working relationship. But it comes at a very important time. One is shall we say, the closing of the middle days of the Syrian conflict. Ironically, one of the stated U.S. goals for pursuing this proxy war in Syria, both the United States and Saudi Arabia, was reducing the arc of Shia influence from Iran from the Gulf to the Mediterranean by depriving Iran of one of its longstanding allies, Syria. However, the actual result of that was an increase of Iranian and Russian influence in the region. Russia has newfound geopolitical clout throughout the Middle East, and the forging of very warm, very close working relationship forged under fire in the war in Syria between Russia and Iran. Now, with UN sanctions sponsored by the West finally lifted in Iran, with the nuclear deal that was finally worked out with the Obama administration, Iran has the world's largest proven gas fields and the world's fourth largest oil fields that have been neglected during the years of these sanctions. Iran badly needs modernization and investment in these fields. Russia is uniquely placed. Right now, its access to Western markets for investment is limited, also because of Western sanctions. And Iran presents a new market for them as well. So they're kind of natural allies in this new place where Iran is looking for energy investment and Russia is looking for a place where to invest energy. This is both in oil and gas. And President Rouhani has given indications that he welcomes Russian oil and gas majors. And then there are, of course, other energy products on the line, nuclear, thermal. Russia and Iran have all the sign of not only forming a geopolitical strategic relationship, but also a energy axis, a geo-energy axis.
And you brought up an interesting point, Mark, when you talked about, at the beginning of this, if we look at the Syrian crisis, how basically one of the goals, of course, was to not only destroy Syria and destroy the resistance, basically, and, of course, trying to inflict a heavy blow against Iran, which, as you pointed out, the opposite has taken place. And we see now this emerging even more power than they had before. Russia and the Islamic Republic of Iran on the side of the victors, hopefully, in the Syrian situation. From a geopolitical perspective, the significance of all of this and if we want to say, more empowered, how more empowered both these countries are because of this. And at the same time, though, both of them have had to pay a heavy price in sanctions.
Yeah, they've had to pay a price in sanctions, and Iran's price was certainly heavier than Russia's. But what affected them even more than sanctions was the oil wars with Saudi Arabia, where Saudi Arabia and Qatar deliberately overproduced oil in order to drive oil prices down, which strongly hurt the economies of both Russia and Iran. But in the end, it was Saudi Arabia whom most analysts say blinked first, and an agreement was reached to raise prices. Now, Iran enters this as sanctions were lifted, wanting, of course, to increase its production. So there's a delicate negotiation balance. Iran and Russia could be competitors in the world for energy and gas, at least in some areas. And Iran's recent delivery of gas, of oil to Belarus, which received a sharp response to Belarus from Russia, is one indication of that. But I think there's a lot more possibility for cooperation. In terms of the geopolitical arena, with increased Iranian and Russian influence, Saudi Arabia taking hard hits both in Syria and in Yemen, where they claim to be fighting Iranian-backed Houthis, although there's no evidence of that. Most analysts agree. I see a reshaped Middle East. And it is even possible that under Trump, we could see more alignment with the United States. The United States is actually aligned with Iran in both Iraq and in at least East Syria at this point. Now, there's a lot of hawks in the Trump cabinet, neocons who would like to increase tensions with Iran. Russia will be uniquely placed as the diplomatic vector to keep that from erupting into warfare. And to keep the Middle East at a peaceful, new, stable geopolitical level.
All right. Thank you so much, Mark Sloboda, International Relations and Security Analyst out of Moscow.